This week on the Writing Fiction podcast, we're going to talk about going back to nature or just kind of getting away from everything to boost your creativity. And so why did you want to talk about this, Regina?
Well, probably because I'm currently going through this, where I'm taking a break for personal reasons. And also, I just feel like I've been on YouTube doing at least, I think I may have missed 1 or 2 weeks, but at least a video every week for 6 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time. And I haven't really taken a vacation. So because of everything that's going on with stuff with my family and just not really having the time, because it does, it probably takes me a full day to do out of the week, to record a video and to edit it and all of that. So it becomes like a matter of time. And also I'm feeling a little like I need to kind of get away and get regenerate a little bit.
I'm going to bring in some science when we're talking about this, but there's a lot of science that shows that actually going out into nature will help you with your creativity. And do you find that, like, when you go out, I know you go for walks a lot, you go out to Tyler and into the parks and things, do you find that it helps you with your creativity?
Absolutely. It is probably my church in a lot of ways. I mean, growing up in the country, I got used to dealing with stress by going into the woods, and there's something just very soothing to me about it. And thank God I live near a beautiful park like Tyler, where it's 1,000 acres of wilderness, basically. I mean, yeah, there are paths, you know it. You live right near it.
Yeah.
But it smells like my home. You know, I'm smelling the wonderful lilac, the honeysuckle. It gets me out of myself. It empties me in a way, you know, like it empties my mind. And I just feel like that is the best medicine for allowing creativity to come in. I think that, I mean, I'm sure, like you said, there was a lot of science on this, but I also wonder how much of being online or even being a content creator and having those social interactions, which are great. And I've had wonderful experiences doing it for the past 6 years. And I'm not quitting. I'm just taking a little break. I don't know, a month or two. I'm not sure. Maybe the entire summer. I'm not sure. But I'm just wondering how much of those interactions and also reading other people's work has shaped my own work. And in some ways, I'm sure it's shaped it in good ways. But also, I kind of want to get back to my own innate voice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
For the new book that I'm working on.
You know, it's interesting you brought that up because something came up on my email with TikTok, and it was saying you could earn $300, right? Mm-hmm. So I went, and like I said, we talked about social media last week, and this kind of ties into a lot of why we talked about how it's not really working for us last week. Now we're talking about how can you, like, what do you do when you do turn off this stuff? What do I have to do to earn $300 on TikTok, right?
You never know, James.
I know. Get naked. But
get naked.
The thing is, they have these specific things you have to hit, and it's sort of basically you're making a commercial for a song. So you have to use this song, and then you have to have these certain things. And I'm like, right out of the gate, I'm like, no, you are making me create
do a free commercial, but
also using these rules that really infringe on everything I want to do creatively. And I'm like, and you don't get $300 right away. Like it depends on your views. So, of course, you know, I think you have to get 10,000 views, maybe, or maybe more, 100,000 views to get the $300. But I'm like,
how many people are going to be trying to do that? And then,
right. But this is what I was talking about last week, how don't let social media, like, don't work for social media, have social media work for you. And that's what I've been seeing when it comes to people creating stuff now, is that they're trying to create for the algorithm, and it doesn't make sense. And like you're saying, how much of it is influencing your voice when you're seeing these other creators do certain things, and now you're doing that thing because that might be what the trend is or what everybody's doing.
Right.
And I do believe it's really good to say, hey, let's back off and because it is, whether you know it or not, it's influencing you, you know?
It's definitely influencing all of us. And I think, I don't know, I read somewhere, I don't know what you think of this, that it's like if something's free, you're paying for it in some way, like you're you're paying either through the advertisement that you're watching, or like what you were talking about, you're creating content with your creativity for some song to get it to have promotion, and $300 is nothing
I know, right? It
for
isn't.
those
And that's
for
not
the
even,
thousands of videos that are probably going to be created.
yeah. And you'll, at best, you get $5 because nobody's going to get those views, you
Right. I
know?
mean, it's not a bad hustle that someone came up with, but
But that's the
you don't want
hustle
to take on.
everyone's doing now. That's the
Mhm.
hustle. And I'm tired of it, you know? Like, I'm
Yeah.
tired of, I mean, literally, it has become people making commercials for everybody, however they want to do it. Like, but it's just you're now creating commercials for content that doesn't benefit you really. I mean, I think
Right.
if you're in the game, like if you're not like you're like somebody who works a 9 to 5 and you're like, you know what I'd like to do? Just create content for commercials and that kind of thing. Like if that's your gig where you
Yeah.
you do that, that's fine. But if you're somebody who's an author or a musician or a writer and like you're trying to get people to notice your work, I think it really is, like you said, first of all, it's not even enough to pay for what you're doing.
No. I mean, there was, I forget the name of the company. They went bankrupt, surprise, surprise. You and I might have been involved in this too. Years ago, it was this company, and the model was you create
Oh
a,
yes.
a commercial. Remember that?
Yeah,
And
Zatarain or whatever it was. What was the thing you did? The
something.
rice
Yeah, I
thing or
did. I
something.
did the race thing. We didn't get, but the prize was like 10 grand, which was like, pretty good. But I did this great commercial, Zatarain's. I think I still have it's online somewhere.
Yeah, it was very
I mean,
good.
it was good, and it probably took us probably a day or two to do it, at least to shoot it, and then you're talking, and it was all volunteers, and I had deals with them. If we won, I would pay them, and this kind of thing. And the one that won was really dumb,
Yeah.
as I recall, but they ended up getting sued by the creators because they weren't paying the 10 grand.
Wow.
But I think about that, and I justified it at the time. I'm not sorry I did it because I'm like, well, it's for my portfolio. I did this commercial kind of thing. It shows off my work, which it did. So I made that choice. But I think you really have to be careful with that stuff. It's part of someone else's business model. Do you really want to put your creative energy into someone else's shtick? You
Yeah.
got to ask yourself that.
Yeah, because I did the Doritos Super Bowl commercial thing they
Oh,
put
and
it.
that was so
I
good.
still love it.
I
And
love that. And you guys should have won. I'm sorry.
I agree. But it's weird because you're putting all this effort into something and then it goes up and they had the same type of thing you guys had, I think, with the Zatarans was like people would vote. Did they do that with
Hmm.
that? Or was
Yeah.
that them? Yeah, and so
Oh, you know what? They might have been voting, or it might have been the company decided. I don't really
yeah, I
remember.
don't remember, but I know that for it was still the same. It had nothing. They would have people who liked it, but it didn't necessarily mean if you got the most likes anything because the company decides for even with the Doritos.
Yeah.
But again, I agree with you. I had a blast making that. It was
Hmm.
Zombitos. I think I'll put a
I
link.
know.
Well, if you have a
Yeah, it
link
was
for the
really good.
Zatarans, give it to me, and I'll put these in the show notes. I'll put the
Okay.
Zombitos
Okay.
and Zatarans because
All
like I
right.
said, I had a blast making. I had all my friends come out. We all did the zombie commercial and did it like the old Night of the Living Dead in black and white, and it was a
Mhm.
blast. And I don't regret doing it, but that's got to be a something you got to be aware of.
It's also something you do it once and have fun with it. Great. But are you going to keep doing
Yeah,
something
I
like
haven't
that?
done a
No.
Doritos. They do that every year. I don't know if they still do it, but I haven't done that since.
Yeah.
It was a very long
Yeah. I
time
don't.
ago.
I mean, I've gotten people have reached out to me to sponsor mostly things that like jewelry and stuff, and I don't really wear jewelry, but um, it's just like you get some free jewelry if you
Oh,
do
I
it.
get that constantly.
sponsor. Like, I love doing the creepy crate ones because are they still giving you creepy
No,
crates?
no. That's why they're not
No?
sponsoring this show anymore because
Oh,
I'm not putting it up. I asked them several times like, "Hey, I never got it." Then they said they're going to send it. It doesn't come out. So, whatever.
I got one recently,
Yeah, I haven't got
but,
one in a long time. I only got one ever, I think.
really, I don't know, I'm still on the list for whatever reason, but, like, I don't mind doing that because I get free books and free stuff, and it's fun and great, and, I'm happy to do it. But I just think you have to be careful with that stuff, or maybe not. If you feel pressure, I think it's more like this. If you feel like, and it's up to each individual creator. If your inner voice is important to you, and if you feel like it is being silenced because of the all the other influences around you, then I do think it's good to take a break.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any ideas when you're on that break, then you got problems.
Well, let's talk about the science. So, scientists believe there's a state of soft fascination in which you can find yourself as you appreciate your surroundings, like if you're on a hike or watching the river. And what it does, it's believed, it calms down the prefrontal cortex,
Oh,
and
okay.
that allows the brain to access other regions, which basically opens your brain wide, which it's called expansive thinking. It allows you to consider different perspectives, and it leads to innovative ideas. This is just going out into nature, right?
Nice.
That's what scientists think is going on in the brain. And what I really think is fascinating about this is the opposite is happening when you're online or when you're constantly having your phone ding
Yes.
because your brain cannot handle all the data that's coming at it, and that doesn't allow you to expand into creative thinking because you're too busy, your brain's too busy constantly dealing with everything coming at you from so many different areas.
And it gets more and more all the time
Yeah.
as more of these apps are created and all this stuff. And then you feel like you need it. I've been doing something which and it was hard to do it at first. Now it's kind of second nature. Is I've been leaving my phone at home. Like if I'm taking a trip and I feel like, oh, if I break down, I need my phone. That's one thing. But
Right.
like I went to listen to some friends of mine play music the other night. Normally I would always bring my phone. I left my phone at home. I didn't need to record anything.
Good
I
point.
just enjoyed the music. And look, if there's an emergency, everyone in that place has their phone. They can call 911. Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
I'll
unless they
be
start
okay.
listening to this show and then you end up creating a trend and now no one has a phone with them.
Well,
Thanks, Regina.
I don't think I'm the only one who does that. Especially when it comes to music concerts, I find it really annoying when people hold up their phones.
I'll bring this up again because science has also talked about this, and it really, when I first heard it, I was like, "Wow, that's fascinating." When you actually go to a concert and you're putting up your phone and you're watching the concert through the lens and not through your actual eyes, the memory doesn't stick.
Hmm.
So you're really, and I'll tell you this: most people don't go back to their phones to look at that stuff,
No,
but
unless they're posting it on Instagram, like, wow,
yes.
I went to see this concert. Aren't I cool?
But that also is, let's say you go on your hike, Regina,
Hmm.
and like I think what we're trying to say is, can somebody go out and see a beautiful sunset or the stars and do that without Instagramming it?
Right. Well,
Like,
I mean, I know people who don't have any social media at all.
yeah, but
Like,
that's because we're in that age group, you
I
know?
know.
I don't know if we were 27, if that would be a true statement. We probably wouldn't know anyone who didn't have
That's true.
this.
That's true. But I do, yeah, I think that the sunset never looks as good on your phone
No, right.
as it looks. And you can't take a good picture of the moon on your phone
Nope. Or the eclipse.
or the eclipse.
Like here's the thing. If you go and you look at the eclipse that just happened and you see those photos are taken with very expensive cameras, with very expensive lenses. All that stuff is done by professionals. You're not picking up your phone and getting a picture of that eclipse that looks good. Same with rainbows.
Yes.
You know, I was just driving home the other day and there was this beautiful rainbow, like I was on the PA side, but it was over New Jersey. And I was like, wow. And I wanted to take the
Oh,
picture.
I missed it.
But I knew it wasn't going to look what it looks like in my head, like how I'm seeing it. So I didn't
Right.
take the picture. It was no point.
I did that once. It was this beautiful rainbow. And I didn't have my phone. And I said to Joe, oh, it was like a block from my house. I want to run home and get my phone. And by the time we came back, the rainbow was gone. And he said, shouldn't you just watch the rainbow? And I'm like, yeah.
Right. But that's the thing. When you are constantly putting the phone between you and reality, your memory is not the same. It's not remembering the event the way it would if you just sat and enjoyed it. And it's the same with music. And I also brought this up before, that the experience of listening to live music like you just did when you went out hits different
Mhm.
parts of your brains, more parts of your brain, than listening to it just on audio or something. So even taking that video, you're losing the memory. And then when you watch it later, it doesn't hit all the parts of the brain that it would have had you
No,
experienced it in real life.
and it sounds bad too.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with being like, oh, I'm out at a concert. I want to remember this. I'll take a picture, to commemorate my fun night. And I'm not saying that. But I think if you're watching the whole concert, which I've seen people do with the phone up, you're
Yep.
missing the point. You
Yep.
shouldn't waste your money on the ticket.
And it's so funny because that used to be a rule. You couldn't go to concerts and take pictures or video. And now
I
they
remember
just
that.
can't even stop it. So they don't even bother anymore.
I know. I think it's just the phone thing is pretty much out of control. So I've been giving myself breaks, but I think taking a break, this break I'm taking from content creating, it was hard to make that decision, but once I did, I felt like, oh, I understood why I needed to take that break. And I feel a little like badass, like I've opened up some channels.
Yeah. I also feel like I don't have tattoos, but
No, neither
you
do
and
I.
I know that when we were young, that was a rebellious gesture to have a tattoo. That was
True.
like,
Only like bikers and sailors had
yeah,
tattoos when I was a
prisoners,
kid.
right? And so when you were young, like that was something you'd be like, wow, that's a rebellion. Now it's so trendy. It is so common. I feel like a rebel not having a tattoo.
I know, because like I bet in my town, and we have I don't know how many tattoo parlors in the town, so obviously it's a business, but I think that I'm probably in a minority not having a tattoo.
Right. And I think putting your phone away and saying I'm taking a break is an act. And we talked about this before, that creativity, a lot of that is an act of rebellion.
Absolutely,
And I
absolutely,
think,
and I've been embracing that more and more.
yeah, and I think saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to step back from now. What I will say is not everybody will want to step back, but what was it that you noticed that was like, I need to do this? Like, so like somebody listening to this might not have that feeling, but what was a feeling that you had that was like, this is something I need to do?
The taking the content creating break.
Yes.
I think it started to become. It felt not like I wasn't having as much fun doing it. It felt more like a job and an obligation.
Hmm.
And oh gosh, I got to do that video. Oh my, goodness, I don't want to. Like I almost felt like I had to go to a job, and I'm like, wait a second, that's not why I do this. I do it because it's fun and I enjoy it, which I do most of the time. So I think plus other things happening. I had some issues which I talked to you about with my families. I just have had a much more many more obligations right now that I'm dealing with, and a lot of driving and stuff. So I'm like, I don't want to feel like I got to rush home and do this video just because like I don't make money doing it.
Hmm.
It's something I do just for me and just for fun. So why am I pressuring myself? And I think it's because, well, I made a commitment to doing it, and commitments are good.
Yeah.
I believe in commitments, but I've been doing it for 6 years without a break. I think it's okay to take a little break. I'll
Now,
be back.
how do you feel this is different from sitting down at the typewriter and saying, There are days, I know you feel this, there are days you sit down and it's like it feels like a job. And
Oh, the writing part?
yeah, but I guess do you consider it a job, the writing part, versus how you would say posting these videos isn't a job?
Well, I think it's a matter of priorities, like, making the decision a couple weeks ago to, take a break, and I actually have a video that I did record that I didn't edit yet, I'll get around to it. But I wanted to finish this novella that I started on Wattpad, uh, and I'm gonna post the link on my blog, which I would desperately need to update, probably sometime today or tomorrow, and there was a deadline on that. It was yesterday, and I'm like, and all this other stuff was going on in my life, and I'm like, I have to finish that deadline. Like I made a commitment. So yesterday in the 11th hour, it had to be 20,000 words, and it took I don't know 2 months off and on to finish it. So I kind of rushed the ending. I have to admit, like I would have liked to have spent more time developing those last few chapters, and I'll probably go back at some point and do that. But
Who put
I
the deadline on? Was it a challenge or was it
Wattpad.
you?
Yeah, it's a
Wattpad.
contest.
Okay, so the Wattpad contest was by yesterday to have 20,000 word novella written.
Right.
And then what
And I
happens?
already well, they have prizes, like, I won one of the, prizes for they have different rounds. So, the second round, I won an ambassador's pick, which is like an honor. It is no money or anything, but it's you get a nice little sticker to put on your cover.
Yeah.
And, but I did make that choice to prioritize my writing because I didn't wanna, quit my channel for a couple months and writing. So I'm choosing writing, and I think that's my I guess my higher purpose, if you wanna say that.
Most of the great ideas don't come while you're online or on your phone. You don't have to not bring your phone, but you have to be
Right.
disciplined enough not to pull it out of your pocket all the time.
I mean, I think it's smart to bring your phone if you're going hiking by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, will bring mine and just put it at the bottom of my backpack, and I won't be able to, turn it off or turn off the
Yeah, don't
whatever.
make it easily accessible unless, like, it's a place you can get it in case of an emergency, but not that it will distract you.
Yeah, I think when it comes to doing, we talked about deep work. I know it's a book. Have you read that
Yeah,
Deep Work?
I did.
Um, in order to do that, I do feel that you need to limit distractions. I don't know what the book's premise is, but it's probably similar to things that we've been talking about. And giving yourself time to create, like if you're afraid of being in a cabin, and I'm not talking about like in a horror movie sense, but if you're afraid of being alone with your typewriter, your writing device, and your own thoughts, or your guitar and your song or whatever, then you really need to look at that because that's where it should be coming from, like the wellspring of your creativity should be coming from you and and your source of inspiration, or the source, if you want to call it that. Um, your creativity is innate. It doesn't depend on, well, it shouldn't depend. I mean, when I say shouldn't, I guess everyone is different, but like if you're looking at stuff and saying, "Oh, you can get inspired by things," but if you're like, "I just want to copy what this person's doing," then I don't know, something's wrong, in my opinion.
I mean, there is a thing to say. There's Austin Kleon has that book. I have it on my shelf over here called "Steal Like an Artist."
Okay.
I don't think that's what we're talking about.
No, no, no. Steal
Uh,
like an artist, I think is about finding inspiration.
yeah, like I
I mean, you
think
can cobble together different ideas. It's not really what I'm talking about. I just feel like you need to, if it really, I think to make the best work, it's tapping into something that is within you.
yeah. So the science also says just a simple walk in the park can boost your creativity.
When I'm out in my retreat, the one thing I do work on, and it's something that probably is the place I feel most vulnerable, is doing like poetry and songwriting. And having that complete solitude is very important for that kind of work, I've discovered. And another thing I've been wanting to do that I haven't done for a while, and kind of taking a break from content creating, is doing some artwork.
Yeah. Well, I will be returning with Pencilween in October.
I
So,
love penciling. I
yep.
love penciling, but I have a little corner of my studio set up with paints and stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah, I should just do this."
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be paints. Like one thing I was doing, and I'm gonna get back to it, is I was building a puppet, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm making sure I get one puppet that's gonna be part of the Office Demonology videos.
Mhm.
Um, but I'll tell you, just teaching myself how to sew and sitting there just sewing. Wow, talk about just like returning like to just quiet.
Exactly.
I mean, because that is interesting. Because in the beginning it takes lots of concentration, but once you get down the sewing, it's like a meditation. Um,
Yeah, it's very
and it's
relaxing.
also creating too, because you're creating this character.
Yeah. Something I do, and I know you do too, is I'm a big thrifter, and I find it very relaxing, and I feel like the best way to thrift, I don't know if you'll agree with this, it's like, sometimes when you go shopping, you go to the mall, you're looking for something specific, like, "I need jeans," or "I need this."
Right.
But if you go into a thrift store, don't like, let go of all expectations, don't go looking for anything specific, but really open yourself up for those kinds of finds.
Yeah.
If you have, like, an open kind of, I don't know, you're in the zone. Like, I've experienced that before. I'll be in the zone, and then suddenly my hand will just, like, the other day I found, an Armani jacket for like $1.50, stuff like that.
I use my eyes to scan without thinking, just like you're saying, and my brain picks it up. It's almost like a subconscious thing.
Mm.
Like I can just look at the books and I'm doing that and it just captures what I'm looking for. Same with like I like vintage board games.
Oh, me too.
That's I my friend Chris, we were at the thrift store one time and I said, "I'm going to challenge you because I spotted this." I said, "Look
Mhm.
at this section and tell me the find the game without thinking, just quickly scan and find the game that we would have had when we were a kid." And because of the box art, it's so specific to 70s and 80s type
I know.
of art that he was
And
able
the
to pick it up.
typeface.
Yes, and the typeface that literally quickly is like, there it is. And it's not like it was easy. It was so many board games piled up.
Mhm.
But our
But we have
brain,
all those patterns stored in our brains. Like,
yes.
we're designed to recognize patterns, and that's really interesting, and because of that, that's how our brains work. You can say the internet is recognizing our patterns of our search patterns, and then creating that algorithm and all that stuff, how that data works, which I really don't know. But we need to make sure that pattern recognition is working for us.
Yeah.
Let our brains work for us, not have, as creators, not being uh, plugged into the matrix and being used. I'm not saying I'm into conspiracy theories. I'm not at all. But
It's not a conspiracy. Um,
well, no, that's true. It's not. But
there's a guy who worked at Google who eventually came out and he's basically saying when we designed these apps, we designed them with the idea of the psychology behind the slot machine. Like that is a
oh,
fact. They designed it so you every time you hear a ding, you get that hit of dopamine. You're not sure because you don't know when your phone's sitting there. You don't know what that ding represents. It could be a friend calling somebody saying, "Oh, I miss you," or it could be, "Hey, you just earned some money." Like you,
$300
yes.
on
And
TikTok.
so you're not sure, but it does the same thing to your brain that every time you pull the slot on the slot machine, that's exactly how they designed it. That's not a
Yeah, and
mistake.
Pavlov's dog, the ding, the bell. It's
Yep.
something kind of gross about it if you think about
It's
it. Like,
very gross.
and it's like, well, you have control over this and that. It's like, well, did I even like sign up for this? This is, like,
Well,
this thing is changed our world, and we're all kind of brought along with it. I understand that, and there's great things about it. Don't get me wrong, but we need to get. I think taking a break helps you get perspective on
well, that
this
was
kind of
not
stuff.
only that, but I like we were talking a lot about creativity, and it hurts your creativity. It just absolutely will stop you from being as creative as you can be. And you know what? I think of someone like Taylor Swift. I
Hmm.
doubt she is on Instagram herself. Like they probably go about their day creating their art and somebody else is posting for her.
Oh yeah.
There's these people who are actually artists who are making money at it. Believe me, if you, Regina, hit it big,
Yes.
right? And you got this
Mhm.
book deal, you would be working on the book and you'd probably say, hey, you know, I'm going to hire somebody to post that I'm doing this. I would. Do you think I
Yeah.
want to be, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm off Facebook now permanently, and that's one thing. I'm still on Instagram, but haven't been posting much. But I don't miss Facebook at all.
Right.
Like, seriously, I thought, oh, how am I? I'm going to be out of touch. It's like out of touch, out of mind. It's fine. No one cares.
Do you think that there is some way moving forward that you could continue to do your YouTube, but not let it get to the place where you kind of like, I'm done for 3 months? You know, do you think that there is something
Well,
like a
yeah,
pattern like that caused you to get to this place? Like, I know there's life stuff going on, but
yeah. It's really. I think it's really more about that, and then knowing that I couldn't, feeling like I couldn't do everything,
right.
and then feeling like I'm resentful toward having to make a video, even though no one's holding a gun to my head. And I'm like I didn't, like Matilda didn't do her horoscopes today, so for the first time in 6 years or whatever. But like, I just feel like, I guess it made me prioritize, and this is good. This is good to do every once in a while, to understand like what I really cared about, and I prioritized my writing and my creativity. And having finished this one story that I put up on Wattpad, that's also, creating content for that, but that's a whole different story, a different topic. But I'm starting my new novel. I've already started it, but I'm now going to focus on it. And this is what I will be writing this summer. And I feel like I need to really focus, and I want to do a good job on it, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. And I don't want to half ass anything. So I'm really going to focus on writing this novel, and also my reading. This is another reason I'm taking a break now that I think about it. I don't always read or want to read horror.
Oh, yeah.
I love horror, and I, I don't I want to I don't want to. What is, I read something. It's the the easiest way to kill your passion is to make it your job. Now, I don't know if that's really true, but I think some people can be very successful at that, obviously. But I've been reading all kinds of different things. Right now I'm reading that book Chaos about the Manson murders and MK Ultra. Do you know that book? It's
Yeah.
fascinating. I'm reading. I'm online on YouTube listening to podcasts that have nothing to do with horror or booktube.
Well,
I'm following my own interests because they've changed over the 6 years. Now, I'm always going to love horror and come back to it, but I don't want to feel like, oh, I should be reading horror because I have a booktube channel. I got to put some content on there. You know what I mean?
yeah. And I've been thinking a lot about that too, because I'm doing my quote unquote booktube. I mean, I don't know what makes a booktube channel, just talking about books, I guess.
Yeah.
But I decided that the horror aspect is just I'm trying to create, you remember Mystery Science Theater?
Yes, I love that.
I'm doing that with books. That's what I'm trying to do on YouTube.
Oh, okay. That's a
So
good
the
idea.
idea is that I have these crazy characters and me, and you'll see when I post the video what I'm talking about. But I want that to be the horror aspect. But the book part, I've never been strictly horror. And even Stephen
No, I know.
King, he rarely reads horror. Like, he does probably as a job because someone says, we need you to read this and put a quote on the book. But when
Right.
you ask him about books in these interviews, you watch him, it's not horror usually that he's so excited about. And actually, I'm reading a book now that you told me about, Yellowface.
Oh, yeah. Is it good?
So far, I like it.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but it sounded really interesting.
It's very interesting. And it's great because it begins where I'm like, okay, it's about this woman who's a writer and her best friend is a famous, had hit it big. They both went to the same college. They both followed the same, things, but the one hits it big with her first novel. The other one's kind of like nowhere. And then the catalyst is right in the beginning. They're hanging out. They're having a great time because they weren't really close friends, but they've been friends. And she secretly just can't stand the one who's successful because she's perfect. She's perfect,
Right.
everything about her. And they're celebrating that she got a Netflix deal. And while they're drinking and everything, then they make pancakes. And this is like in the middle of the night. They're like staying up all night drinking. And her friend, who's perfect, chokes on a pancake.
It's a little bit of a black comedy, I guess.
Yeah. And so she's like, holy crap, I'm trying to do the whole Heimlich maneuver. And it's
Oh, and
just,
doesn't she assume her identity or
yeah.
something?
So that's the thing.
Okay,
It's like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
know, because it ends, she's talking about, how much paperwork there is when somebody dies. And she says, like, the next morning, her manuscript was in her bag at home. So she took the manuscript that nobody knows that woman wrote.
Mm.
And
Ah,
that's where I am. And I'm like, wow, already
good premise.
good premise, fascinating, great writing. But I mean, I was a big, I'm a big Chuck Palahniuk. Is that how you say Palahniuk? Fight Club.
Yeah.
I liked his stuff. There's a lot of writers I like that aren't horror.
And I have a book by Patricia Highsmith, I think, that a friend sent me about. It's her advice on how to write mystery novels. Like, I kind of want to just do that, instead of always feeling like I have to have a TBR.
Yeah, and that's
Like
what I'm saying.
I wanted to participate in Old School April, and I feel kind of bad. I kind of dropped it, but it went on without me. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised how I think I did every book except for one that I was going to read for Old School April. But I'm also glad it's over because I'm like, I don't
Now you
want to
can go
be
back to pressured to read
read things in some kind of rule book that I have to follow, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to make, like, when I'm doing my stuff, I want it to be a celebration of what I enjoy about reading and writing, not necessarily in the horror genre, but my essence of the show will have a dark kind of funny, horror aspect to it. And of course I still read horror, but I don't want to lock myself into that.
Exactly. And I do a lot of reading, especially in the summer, of like cheesy romances and stuff like that. I never want to lose lose that. Well, Garbology's or Garb August is coming up, and I do have a story in Garbology, the anthology. So there's some cool things happening. I'll participate.
Yeah. I don't know if I will. I don't know if I want to read. I don't know what that is. Like, I'd have to read a book and see if I like the genre first. Whatever
Well, it's
garbage
just
book is.
oh, it just means like trashy, beach reads and stuff,
Hmm.
which could mean different things to different people. Most of the stuff I read already is a little bit trashy, but I liked reading nonfiction a lot too.
Oh, I read a ton of nonfiction, so yeah, I can't not do that.
Oh, I wanted to mention when we were talking about this topic about, like, unplugging. I actually saw a video yesterday. It was from it just came up on my feed. It was from a Orthodox priest. So, this is where it's coming from, about how to deal with natural ways of dealing with anxiety and depression.
Okay.
And his advice, and it wasn't about praying the rosary or anything, but it was a lot of what we were talking about. I don't remember everything, but I do remember it said exercise,
Yes.
do an activity, like a skill building activity, like you were talking about, sewing or
Yep.
building, gardening, building a fence. I don't know, something that you can start and feel a sense of completion when you're done and learn something from the process. And then the third one, I think there were four. The third one was to, like, give your time, show up at I don't know, volunteer at a homeless shelter, like this kind of thing. Like, get out of yourself and your own crap is basically his advice. And it's kind of what we're talking about. I think he did have a nature component in there too.
Yeah.
That if you schedule that kind of stuff, especially like the activity, because a lot of us, I'm like this too. If you're just in your own head all the time, it can be bad. And doing that thing that's like, oh, I'm going to focus on something I don't know how to do very well and learn how to do this.
Well, there's
Great.
these things called, it's called the 5 pillars of well-being or health. And
Mm-hmm.
so one is movement. So obviously exercise, like going out and for a walk. Sleep is super important.
Yep.
Obviously nutrition, what you eat. Stress management would be what you're talking about, like maybe sewing or
Mhm.
some creative thing to kind of reduce stress. And this is the thing I think we are losing is human connection. Those are the
Yes.
5 pillars, and none of them require a phone,
Or a
you know,
computer even.
or a computer. Like, and I think the thing that bothers me is these apps that
Mhm.
claim that they're going to help you with movement, with exercise. But what they do is every one of those apps add these little awards or these moments where hey, you've hit this. And, he tries to push you to this
Right.
next level because you got this certain level and it becomes a game. But that's not the part that matters. It's just getting out and moving. You don't have to then turn it into an app that's like a
I
game.
I I know. When I was jogging a couple years ago, I just walked down and jog. I had one of those apps, and it would be like, "You just ran a mile. Good job." I'm like, "What? What is this?" I don't want to hear this voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is something we've become very dependent on this stuff, and I, it's hard to think about how we ever got around without GPS. I mean, I still have my road maps in my trunk,
Yeah, I don't even know where mine are.
and I probably need like a magnifying glass to read them now because of my eyes. But it's I mean, it's a great tool, but you don't really need any of the stuff.
Yeah, but you also got if you're gonna use it, you have to make it work for you, not you working for those tools.
Right.
Um, but let's just wrap up.
Okay.
What we want you to do if you're listening is can you get out in nature. We're not saying you have to do what Regina's doing and take 3 months off. She has like different circumstances that she's doing. But if you feel that, that's okay too, you know?
Yeah.
But at least go and walk in the park and try to disconnect and see how that helps, especially if you're working on a story. I guarantee you
Yeah.
it's going to be amazing to get out and take a nice long walk in nature. Your brain, and here's the reason why again. We're constantly distracted to the point where your brain can't work out those problems that you have with your story right now. It just
Mhm.
can't. It's being bombarded. The minute and this is why in the shower you get great ideas. If you go for a walk, you get great ideas, is because you're allowing your brain to open up to all kinds of possibilities, and your subconscious will figure out how that ending should happen. Uh,
Yeah.
I have a
And
friend.
that 3 a.m. wake up is also a good time
Yeah.
to if you wake up early like that sometimes, and, it's a great time for writing poetry.
However, most people wake up at 3 a.m. and pick up their phone.
Yeah, so I think having the phone by the bed is bad.
If you don't take this time to go out in nature, and I will even say how you brought up going to thrift stores, I do feel that's like almost going out in nature because it does
It
relax me a
is.
lot.
It's so relaxing. Well, you talking about recognizing patterns, and what I do because I work with fabrics is I just run my fingers down the length of the fabrics, and I can tell which ones are the older ones because they're different.
Yeah.
It's a totally and the colors are different too. A totally different feel, and those colors aren't the same as they used to be. So, like the colors from the 70s really pop out, which is it's kind of the stuff I like to collect. But yeah, just doing something like that, it's very relaxing. And I also am a big fan of the am I saying it right? Binaural beats when I'm
I
writing.
think you're saying that. Yes,
Yeah,
correctly.
saying it correctly. I think there's some science on that too. Uh, or just the sound of nature and just nothing, is also good too.
Yeah,
But
because
I think what we're really getting at is when you're writing, since that's what we're talking about is writing, connecting with your inner voice is the most important thing. That's why you wanted to write in the first place.
yeah, and we can get easily distracted, and we can also feel down on ourselves when we are online seeing other writers and comparing ourselves with those writers. And it always looks better online, right? That these people are
Yeah.
doing well and, you know, yeah. And so as writers, we can't beat ourselves up because it looks like somebody posts, "Hey, just finished my 20,000 words today," you know, And
Yeah.
you'll be like, what? I didn't even get a sentence, because you don't know if that's true, or you don't know if they're just 20,000 really bad words that person wrote, you know.
True.
Stop comparing yourself and get out. Like if you start feeling that, I think that's a good like cue
Mhm.
to say, turn everything off, go for a walk.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good advice.
Yeah.
That comparison, I'm sure there's science on that, makes people probably feel depressed and anxious.
Well, yeah, I mean, the numbers are off the charts at this point with anxiety and depression among Gen Z and
Mm,
other people based on this exact thing we're talking about. So, yeah, don't do that to yourself.
no.
All
There
right.
are
Well,
other ways. There's always other ways to do. You can free yourself very easily from a lot of stuff if you put a fresh perspective on it.
all right.
All right, good topic.
Yeah, and look for me at least on YouTube. I will be posting something soon, and
And the new Bookworms is coming out in a couple
oh my
weeks.
God, I can't wait.
I know, I'm excited.
Yeah, and yeah, so look at the show notes. Everything's there to kind of hang out with us online, even though we're telling you to go outside in nature.
But you can put this podcast on and go out in nature.
That's right. Listen to this while you're walking around. That's a good. Well, again, I say I don't put podcast in the same category as Instagram.
No, I don't either.
And yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this week, and we'll be back in a week with a new episode.
Okay, see you then.
Bye bye.